Welcome to part 18 of our tile-based Pygame project. In this episode, we're going to be adding sound effects to the game. So one change I want to make real quick before we do anything else is I've added this detect radius variable to our settings. And what this is going to represent is how far the zombies can see. So if the player is within 400 pixels of them, they will chase him. But if he's more than 400 pixels away, they won't chase. Right now, the zombies can head towards you from all the way across the map. No matter how far away they are, they're going to be coming towards you. I want to make it so that they can't see forever. So all we need to do is we have that value is go over here to our mob, and here we're calculating how far away we are here. So we're going to make this a little more flexible and a little simplified by just adding a self.target. And that's just going to be the player. Okay, so our mob's target is the player. And then we're going to just go down here, and in our update, instead of calculating the distance here in the rotation calculation, we're going to do it separately. So the target, we'll just say dist for short. The target distance is the target position minus our position, right? This same calculation we did, just calling it target instead of player. So rotation becomes just that, okay? But now we have this, we can use that to tell if we're close enough. So we want to say target distance is a vector, so we need to know what the length is. And so we could say length, if the length of the vector is less than the detect radius, then we'll do something, right? But the problem with that is the way we calculate the length of a vector is using the Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the length is the square root of the x component squared plus the y component squared. And it turns out that for computers, calculating square roots is relatively slow. I mean, compared to arithmetic and multiplication and division and things like that, it's really slow. So what a lot of vector libraries let you do, including Pygames, is calculate the length squared. I just want to know what x squared plus y squared is and leave it there and not take the square root, which means we just have to compare it to the detect radius squared. And this will be a much faster calculation. And since we're doing it every frame for every zombie, this will save a little bit of time. It may not be significant, but it's just as easy to type. So what we want to do is say if the distance is less than the detect radius, then all of this stuff here, all of the movement code will happen, but otherwise it won't. So if we check that out, we should be able to go over here and see, I'll go by the big group. See how those zombies are not chasing me, right? But if I get closer, they're going to start coming after me. And if I get far enough away from them again, they should stop chasing. Yep. So later on, we can go back and add some code to make the zombies wander around when they're not chasing us, but we'll come back to that later. This is good enough for now. Oops, and there's one other quick thing we got to talk about. There is a bug that started appearing when we just added that detect radius code that I thought would be interesting to look real quickly at how to fix it. It's a quick fix, but it might be a weird one if you don't understand what's happening. So let's run and see what this bug is. So there I am. There's a zombie who can't see me, so he's not chasing me yet. He's just sitting still. So are all the other zombies on the map. So if I shoot him, boom, he's now taken some damage and his health bar has gone down just a little bit, right? And that all seems fine. But watch what happens when I start moving around. All the zombies have green bars on them that aren't their health bars, right? If I start shooting them, they have their own health bars, but they have that green bar on them. Why is that happening? Well, if we look at how we did our mob, when we spawn the mob, we set its image equal to the game's image. When the mob gets hit, we draw the health bar on it. So we draw the health bar on its image, but its image is the game's image, which every mob is using. So now the game's image has a green bar on it. Now when every mob starts moving, we rotate the game's mob image, which already has that green bar on it, and make it its own. So that green bar is getting written to the original image, which should be clean and not have anything on it. So to fix this, very simple. All we need to do is make sure that when we spawn the mob, we use a copy of the game image. And that way we won't be going and drawing this mob's green bar on every mob's image. And now you can see this will work much better. That mob doesn't affect the other mobs, whether they're moving or not. All right, bug fixed. All right, let's talk about sounds. So I have added over here in the settings file a list of a bunch of different sounds for us to use. So I've got some background music that is going to give us some atmosphere and make things sound a little better. And then we've got some sound effects for a lot of different things. So the player hit sounds are going to be the sounds that the player makes when a zombie hits them, like kind of grunts of pain. The zombie moan sounds are pretty obvious. These are all a list of various sounds that zombies can make. Just stuck all in a list because we can randomize them. I've got a sound I found that I liked for the zombie getting hit. This is when we kill the zombie. It just sort of goes splat. We've got a sound for the firing of the gun, and you can see I made this a list even though there's only one thing in it because eventually we're probably going to want to add a couple more in here and make some variety, but I haven't really found the perfect gun sound yet. I'm still looking for one I really like or a set of them that I really like. This will be good enough for now. And then I have some various sound effects for different things happening, like picking up the health pack, and I found a really cool sound you'll hear when we play it to play at the beginning of the level when the level first starts. So these are all the sounds we've got so far for all the stuff that we have going on in the game. So we just need to load those things in our game now. So if we go over to our load data section, we have a couple other folders that we're going to need to load. So I'm going to make a duplicate of this here, and we're going to load all the sounds are in the SND folder. I just abbreviated it like I did for image. And then all of the music is going to be in a music folder. Okay, so we load those up, or we define those so that we can load our things. So let's start with the music, since that's going to be super simple. And then the music, let's go to the end of the file, or sorry, the end of the function here, and we're going to add all the sound loading stuff. First thing we're going to do is load the sound. So pg.mixer.music.load. That's how we load the music we want to use. We tell it that we're going to use the music folder, and we're loading the bg music variable. So that loads the sound, or sorry, that loads the music. Now we're going to just play it when we start the game. So I'm going to put it right here in def run before we start the game loop. pg.mixer music.play, and we're going to put loops equals -1 because we just want it to loop around and repeat. Let's see how that sounds. You see, got a little very cinematic sounding, creepy sneaking around kind of music. All right, let's start adding some sound effects. So I'm going to do these in kind of order from the simplest to the most complicated. None of them are going to be that hard. But let's start with the effects sounds. So we're going to have sounds for all sorts of different effects. We're going to make this a dictionary so that we can name them and have a name map to a sound. So we're going to just go through that effects sounds list that we made, or sorry, dictionary that we made in here. Right, we're going to look at each one of these and we're going to make one for level start, one for health up. Oops, let's call this effects sounds because that's what it is. So the effects sounds for that type is going to be equal to pg.mixer.sound. In the sound folder, effects sounds, whatever type. So that's going to load. So at the end of this, we'll have a dictionary of effects sounds that has both of those sounds in it. And then we can play them when we want them to play. So I want the new level start thing to play here, right? When def new happens, when we start a new level. So we want to play the level start sound. Dot play when that starts. And then the other sound effect that we want to play is when we pick up the health pack. So that's here. Where is it? Right here. So if we hit a health item, then we're going to add health to the player. And we're going to play the effect sounds of the level start of the health pack, which we called health up. Okay, so let's try those out. There's the little level start. And then let's go pick up the health pack. I need to take a couple of hits. And then there we go. Just a little sound, a little chime for that. All right, now we're ready to move on to the next one. All right, so next let's start on the weapon sounds. Now we're going to start building up a list of a dictionary of different weapon sounds. We only have one weapon in the game at the moment, but we're definitely planning on adding some more. So weapon sounds gun is just going to be a list of the sounds that we're going to play when you shoot the gun. All right, remember we only have one in that list at the moment, but we'll get there. So if we go through that list that we put in settings, right, that one right there, then we're going to just append it to it. So weapon sounds gun dot append, and then we're just going to do pgmixer.sound again. We can copy and paste that with whatever the sound that we're loading is. All right. Oops, forgot the parentheses there. Okay, so now we've got the sounds loaded, and we can play the gun sound when we shoot. Now, when we shoot is over in the class player, right? We have here that when you press the space, you're going to shoot. So we want to play the sound too. So let's just stick that in there. So we want to make a random choice out of that list, right? Because it's a list. So the game weapon sounds gun dot play. All right, let's go hear that. There's our gun sound. Not super great. I'm not super thrilled with it, but it's good enough for now. We'll keep looking and see if we find some better weapon sounds that we can use. Feel free to post your suggestions in the comments below as well if you find some good pistol sounds. I did find a good shotgun sound, but we haven't made a shotgun yet. All right, now let's see. We've got the weapon sounds. Let's add the zombie sounds now. So now we have, you can see we have sort of a pattern going on here. We're going to have the zombie moan sounds. Oops, sounds. And that's going to be another list of sounds that we can use. So we're just going to take all the ones we listed and go through them, and we're just going to append them to the list. So append, and we can just append that. Same thing here. And now we have a list of all the zombie moan sounds. Now, when do we want to play those? Well, we want to play those occasionally, right? We don't want to play them all the time. We don't want to play them too often. We don't want to play them too rarely. We want it sort of random. And each zombie can occasionally make a sound. So we'll go over back to our mob here. And I'm only going to have the zombies make sounds if they're chasing after the player, right? They're hungry, they're coming after the player. We're going to have it make sounds then. So what we need to do is we need to pick a random number. So the random picks a random number between 0 and 1, right? And if that is a very small number, because remember that we're doing this every frame for every mob. So if we make this happen too frequently, we're going to have a constant bunch of sounds just all playing at once. So we want it to be really rare. So this is what I played around with, and we can see if that's too often or too rare and adjust it. So now we want to make a random choice out of that list. So random choice from that list and play it. All right, so here we go. Now, they're not going to make the sound unless they're chasing me. So let's go get a bunch of them to chase me. So you can see is it too often? Is it too rare? I'm not really sure yet. It's going to depend really on where we go with the game, with how big the crowds of zombies are going to get, how much we want them making noise. But it does at least give them a little bit of personality, especially when they occasionally say brains. Okay. Oh, but something you might have noticed, let me run this again, is that the zombie sounds are pretty loud. Right? They're kind of overpowering everything else. See how loud that is? So we probably want to adjust the sound, and this is something that happens a lot when you start bringing in sound effects. Different sounds were created at different volume levels, and they might not be the volume level you want for your particular application relative to the other sounds, right? We could obviously lower the volume of the whole game, but I don't want the zombie sounds to be so overpowering. I want them to be quieter. And so when we load the sound, we can adjust the sounds volume in our program. So what we want to do is, before we put the sound into the list, okay, we're gonna just gonna give it a temporary variable called s, just so we can load the sound and set the volume. And the set volume command lets you put anywhere between 0 and 1. So 1 is the volume that it's at right now. So you can reduce it as much as you want all the way down to 0, right? And I'm actually going to drop it quite a bit. They're pretty loud sounds, actually. And you'll see that this will work a little bit better. And then we append it into the list once it's been once it's been decreased in volume. All right, let's go over there and get a bunch of zombies to chase us now. All right, see, it's a little better to have it more often if they're not as loud and overpowering. So maybe point 2. You know, you can play around with what you think is a good volume. And as we get more and more sounds in, we'll probably adjust that more and make it a little more, or a little easier to change, but this will be good enough for now. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to skip to the end here, and I went ahead and pasted in, just doing the same thing with the player hit sounds and the zombie hit sounds. Right, same process, loading them up. And now we want to play the player hit sounds when a mob hits a player, which we have down here, mobs hit player. And so I'm going to play a random sound out of that list, but I'm only doing it I'm only doing it sometimes, not every time. And that's just because when there's a whole bunch of mobs around you all hitting you, if every single one of them makes a sound, that'll be too much. So there's where we play the hit sounds. And then for the zombies, we go down here to their update. When their health is less than 0 and we delete them, we're also going to play the zombie hit sound. Okay, so let's see how those work out. So I'll let this zombie hit me. Right, so I make some grunting noises, and then I'll go ahead and kill this guy. And you can see we get a splat sound when he goes away, which is going to be good for us when we add a nice little effect for the zombie dying. Alright, so that'll do it for the sounds. Hopefully you enjoyed this. It feels a lot nicer to play now. You've got, it's not purely silent. We'll obviously be adjusting that as we go, as we add more features and as we adjust how things behave. We'll definitely be changing the shooting sound. We'll be adding some maybe adjusting the volume on some of them to get the balance just right. But I feel pretty good about it so far. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Down below I will link to where you can download all the sounds I used. Feel free to go ahead and find your own, use your own sounds, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.